My name is Emily. I'm currently 36 years old and living with my husband, Michael. Michael and I sometimes fight, but we still have a good relationship going on. Our involvement with my in-laws is limited to occasions like summer and Christmas, or sending seasonal gifts. We maintain a good distance, so our life has been going smoothly. We were not blessed with children, so we had discussed living our lives just the two of us. We showed our in-laws the medical test results from the hospital, and they understood that we couldn't have children. However, there was someone who couldn't quite accept this. It was not Michael's sister, Ruby, but her fiancé, Tom. Michael doesn't have kids? Is there a problem with your wife? That's troublesome, getting married first, but not having kids. If Ruby and I have kids, you're planning to leave your care to our children in the future, aren't you? I wasn't present when Ruby brought her fiancé, Tom, to her parents' house to introduce him as her fiancé. I wasn't particularly close with Ruby personally, so there was no meaning in me going to meet him. I am a part of Michael's family, not Ruby's. However, it seems that Tom said such things at the family gathering I didn't attend. Naturally, Michael asked him, "Why do you say such things when you don't even know my wife?" He asked calmly, without showing his anger. Getting defensive like that means there must indeed be a problem with your wife. Saying this, Tom patted Ruby, who was sitting next to him, on the shoulder and bragged, "See, I'm amazing, right? I can easily understand what others are thinking. After all, someone with an IQ of 200 like me is different." In response to these remarks, Michael seemed to stop reprimanding him. The in-laws frowned upon Tom's behavior, but thinking that Ruby, who was in her late 30s, might not get another chance to marry, they said nothing. It seemed they were willing to let her marry anyone at this point. Although, one would think it's better to marry a decent person. Ruby herself seemed more excited about finally getting married. Praising Tom excessively, "Tom, you're amazing. Just as expected of my fiancé. I never expected Ruby to be this carried away by marriage." Both being in their late 30s. One would think they wouldn't make such fanciful statements in front of others. However, the two of them were about to cause a stir. Even before the wedding, Tom had already been causing trouble. Ruby's mistake was blindly believing in Tom, ignoring the advice of those around her and letting him be. He was really a mean person. "Is my sister really going to marry that guy?" Michael said to me when he returned from the meeting. He told me what was said at the meeting in advance, thinking that if he suddenly insulted me, I would be hurt. There had been people in the past who suggested that I might be the reason we couldn't have children, so I wasn't too hurt. But, as Michael said, I thought Tom was a dangerous person. It's strange and insensitive to verbally blame someone for not having children, regardless of whether it's my or Michael's fault, and to bring up such a topic during his own marriage announcement. It's unthinkable. When Michael and I announced our marriage, both of us were nervous, wanting to leave a good impression on each other's parents. We never thought of behaving rudely. Yet, neither Ruby nor Tom seemed to have any intention of leaving a good impression. It seemed like they were only giving a bad impression. At the very least, to Michael, Ruby's own brother, and to me, his wife, their impression was the worst. Well, we hardly have to interact with them, right? Don't worry about it, I said to Michael with a smile. However, my words didn't become reality. Regrettably, I ended up meeting Tom. It happened while I was sweeping in front of our house on a holiday. "Are you Emily?" He suddenly spoke to me. Called by my name, I instinctively replied, "Yes." I recognized his face. I had seen his photo recently, shown by Michael. So I immediately knew he was Ruby's fiancé, Tom. He seemed to recognize me as well, probably having heard about me from Ruby. He knew I was Emily, Michael's wife. You're Michael's wife, right? Yes, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, he says. I knew from Michael that he had blamed me for us not having children at their first meeting. I had no intention of getting along with someone who could say such things so casually. Moreover, his sudden visit without an appointment. Ruby wasn't with him, and if he had told Michael he was coming, Michael would have definitely informed me. Hello, Tom. What brings you here today? I asked him. He tilted his head in response. Huh? You really don't know? I thought I had seen you at the office before. That made sense. After hearing Tom's name, I was shown his photo by Michael and was quite surprised. That's because I've passed by Tom at the company several times. I thought a person named Tom might just be someone else with the same name. But the photo Michael showed me was of a face I had seen often at work, which made me hold my head in disbelief. To think that he was not only my sister-in-law's husband but also someone from my company. However, I thought it would be fine as long as we ignored each other at work. That's why I had decided not to get involved with Tom more than necessary. No, I saw your photo and I was sure I had seen you at the company. But I thought maybe I was mistaken and it was bothering me. Could it be that he came to my house unannounced just to confirm this? Indeed, my day off is the same as the company's, so it would be easy for him to find me at home. Even so, coming to my house just to confirm that seems excessive. I thought he should have asked Michael if he was curious. If your doubt has been cleared, then there's nothing more to ask, right? Excuse me. I picked up my broom and turned to go back inside my property. Tom called out to me as I was leaving. Hey, I have one more thing to ask. What is it? What's your highest level of education? Pardon? I was taken aback by his question. My educational background is none of his business. We are not family and not close enough to make small talk. Why do I have to tell you that? Perhaps it was wrong of me to ask that question in return. At my response, he grinned and said, just as I thought. High school grad, no, more like middle school, right? Even if our company is okay with hiring middle school grads, that's just too much. The wife of my brother-in-law is a middle school grad. What's the IQ of a middle school grad? Maybe like 130. I lost the will to deny his words. When someone makes such rude assumptions and then laughs boisterously, it's hard to muster the energy to correct them. I graduated from university, but I don't flaunt it or boast about my IQ. In our company, effort speaks for itself. No matter the educational background, those who don't work hard cannot advance. That's why it's ridiculous for him to mock my education and IQ. Then, if you'll excuse me. Oh? Are you sure you should be acting like that? I heard such a voice from behind, but I had no intention of engaging with him. I quickly closed the front door. When Michael came home that day, I told him about Tom's unannounced visit and how he insulted me. Michael took it seriously and immediately contacted Ruby. However, even after hearing about Tom's words and actions, Ruby said, Tom went out of his way to greet Emily, who didn't come to the face-to-face meeting. He's so polite. I don't think he did anything wrong. Hearing this, Michael and I thought, this couple is hopeless. The more we involve ourselves with them, the more trouble we get into. We decided once again to avoid any involvement with Ruby and her husband. For now, Michael emphasized to both Ruby and Tom not to come to our house unannounced. Michael mentioned considering cutting ties if they didn't respect this, to which Ruby reluctantly agreed. Tom seemed dissatisfied. However, at that moment, Tom seemed to hold a grudge against us for saying not to come uninvited. As if to get back at us, he caused a scene at their wedding. I attended the wedding, sitting next to Michael. I was celebrating Ruby and Tom's marriage just like everyone else. When it was almost time for my speech, Ruby, who doesn't have long-lasting friendships, had asked me to give a speech. It seemed no one else had volunteered to speak. Just when it was my turn to speak, Tom, who had been silent until then, suddenly grabbed the microphone and looked at me. I've always been annoyed. Why should a woman who treats us coldly give a speech? We invited her just to make up the numbers, and now she has the audacity to give a speech. A woman with an IQ of just 130 should know her place. His sudden outburst caused a stir among the guests. Pointing at me, he declared before anyone could stop him, "I'm cutting ties with this lowly woman with an IQ below 130. And my disrespectful brother-in-law as well." Somehow, in his mind, my IQ had dropped below 130. I've never measured my IQ, so I wondered what significance it holds in life. The guests were still buzzing, but having said his piece, Tom returned to his seat with a look of satisfaction. Next to him, Ruby in her wedding dress seemed to find his declaration impressive and applauded softly. If they love each other so much, they should keep it to themselves and not involve us, I thought from the bottom of my heart. I then stood up. Ignoring Tom's remarks, I was next to speak. Before leaving my seat, I asked Michael, "It's okay if we cut ties, right?" Michael, sitting beside me, let out a heavy sigh and said, "Yes, let's cut ties. Shall we leave together after your speech?" I can't wait to leave. Deciding to sever ties with my sister-in-law and her husband, I went to the stage. Took the microphone, I said with a smile, "Congratulations on your marriage, my sister-in-law Ruby and Tom. Actually, I often see Tom at the company. He is an employee at my company. I never imagined that we had such an unreasonable person among our employees. His behavior has recently become a problem at the company, so the groom is fired." What? However, today is the beginning of your new life together. Let's celebrate this occasion grandly and send them off into their new life. I said this and stepped away from the microphone. Tom, who didn't grasp the situation even after hearing my speech, was bewildered, saying, "What? What does that mean?" Since his direct supervisor was also present at the wedding, he would surely explain things properly. Actually, I am the president of the company where Tom works. However, I soon realized that he had no idea who I was. Even though he had seen me at the company, he never paid attention to what I was doing. Apparently, he had never listened to the president's address or researched the company's president during his job search. If he had known who I was, at least he wouldn't have embarrassed himself at the wedding. Ruby, who had always affirmed everything he said, knew I was the company president and was shocked, saying, "What does this mean? Why did you say such things to the president?" I wanted to tell her that her failure to reprimand him was part of the problem. But instead, I said, "Please excuse us," and left the venue with Michael. It was impossible for Michael and me, who had just cut ties, to stay at the wedding. It was better to leave. However, after Michael and I left, it seems most of my employees left as well. Perhaps they thought celebrating his wedding would mean opposing the president. His direct supervisor told him, "I can't take care of you anymore," and left. What was supposed to be the best day of their lives turned into a disaster due to Tom's impromptu speech. And Ruby, who was exceptionally happy about her marriage, ended up crying bitterly. She confronted Tom, saying, "If you hadn't ridiculed Emily, none of this would have happened. Take responsibility. Make my wedding right again." But Tom retorted, "What? Can't help it. I didn't know she was the president." And if she is, I should just take her from her brother. She seems to have money and is a president, after all. I wouldn't have to work, she could support me. Despite ridiculing me and disparaging me at a formal event like his wedding. I can't understand how he could think this way. I heard this from the in-laws who remained at the venue. Ruby became even more furious. You're talking about chasing other women right here. I wanted to marry you seriously. The argument between Ruby and Tom escalated into a physical fight, turning the wedding into complete chaos. It was decided that the wedding costs would be split as planned, with both of them bearing the expenses. However, the rented wedding dress was torn during their scuffle, and they also had to pay for its repair. As a result, both of them ended up working at a factory owned by an acquaintance. Tom was fired by me, and Ruby had quit her job right after getting engaged, declaring, "I'm going to be a housewife." So, either of them had a job. I didn't think they could pay for the wedding, so I arranged a job for them. Both of them complained about the factory work, saying, "I hate this factory job. I can't stand shift work. I'm not good at working nights or early mornings." The factory owner agreed to pay off the wedding and dress costs up front, and they would repay it through deductions from their salary, so there's no escaping it. Once Ruby and Tom, trying to escape, contacted us angrily saying, "It's your fault this happened, you should take responsibility." But since Michael and I had cut ties with them, we simply responded, "Who may this be?" Faced with their continuous demands for money and responsibility, Michael and I were astounded and quickly ended the call. However, I want to clarify one thing. Firing Tom was not because he ridiculed me at the wedding. I'm not the kind of president who fires employees just for that. In fact, Tom had a habit of claiming credit for the achievements of colleagues whom he deemed to have lower IQs than himself. This behavior had been reported several times, and I had been made aware of his tyrannical attitude and tendency to steal credit for others' work. That's why, after an investigation, I decided to fire him. I believe it was the right decision. After all, both Tom and Ruby ridiculed me and praised each other for it, without ever offering an apology. Even if they were older, people who don't understand basic human decency can cause unpredictable problems at work. As expected, the two of them ended up causing trouble at the factory where they were working, leading to a more restricted lifestyle than before. Meanwhile, Michael and I have moved out of our rental home and now live in our own house. Our life is still just the two of us, but it's more peaceful than before Tom appeared. Both Michael and I are cherishing our happiness.